Welcome back. In this episode of Mindful Drawing, we'll be exploring the space between things, the gravity that holds elements together, and binds us, but also keeps us within ourselves. We use the drawing practice to look inside and find stability through repetition and expression. I'm trying something different in today's episode. We're bypassing the typical warm-up and jumping right into the drawing. So grab your favorite pen or pencil, brush or charcoal, and a fresh sheet in your sketchbook or a nice piece of paper. And let's draw together. I'm going to use like a nice heavy marker, something that flows fast today, but the drawing would be not fast, not slow, just a opening up of a lot of space on the page and then slowly bringing that space together. I was thinking of starting by finding a few arbitrary points in a constellation, just kind of letting the arm maybe move around the page a bit and looking for a space and putting a small dot here and there with no real concern of their relation, just within easy reach to kind of define some of the places around the page and give it a bit of space there instead of the emptiness of the paper. And once you have just a few, it seems fine to me. This constellation becomes our new canvas, our insertion into the page, a place to begin and explore each one as it reaches out to the other. I'm going to begin doing this by just expanding the dot, drawing a ring or wobbly circle around one, then tracking to the next as I get familiar with my page and begin to move around, feel through the space that I've created by making these initial dots, and just let them take a little bit more presence in their location. See how they're connected visually and by location as I move to each one and repeat an iteration of expansion. And that's our foundation of the technique. So I'll cycle through each one, starting to bring my attention to where I begin and end each arc, each circle, as well as where I begin and end each cycle. These first few rounds just letting us enter into that awareness of how we're flowing through the space of the page and how the ink or graphite or pencil is flowing from our fingers, from our arm, from our shoulder, through this instrument out onto the paper. And as you start to ease into a cycle similar to our breath, a cycle of drawing, a cycle of marking and moving around the page. We get comfortable and settled into that, just like our normal, easy background breathing. And as that takes the place of kind of an automatic or a background sensation, we can bring our attention then to the breath, bring it to the foreground for a while. Let's take a breath in as we move between spaces, and then let it out slowly in connection with the next concentric ring of expansion. Breathe into the space between and out into the act of drawing. And this, I feel, is causing me to slow down a bit from that initial invitation to the automatic. Bring some more attention back to how the breath connects with my movement, how fast I'm going, the beginning and the end of each location expanding out. That long, slow out breath as we move the pen around the page. Our upper back, mid back expand, rise, decompress, and fall as we move on the paper. And as the rings may be getting closer to each other, they're more connected with what we're beginning to draw, the visual space, and we maybe have to begin to make decisions quickly to overlap or terminate the motion, and just trusting in the breath to do whatever feels right in each pass. Some may be different than others, and that'll create more complexity, more local conditions within the drawing. Let our eyes track over the top. Or perhaps your constellation is very far apart, or your concentric rings are very tight and small, and they're ever reaching out towards their neighbors, just barely glancing by. These indentations in the space of a page started by the dots in the constellation, forming little wells of gravity, pull us in and connect us. They must negotiate the territory at their edge as they approach each other, perhaps compressing into a plane, reaching out, cross, and connect. Remembering to take some time to adjust, keep the body in a place where it can relax and support our breathing. As our attention gets pulled into the drawing, it's good to remember to check in with the breath so that we don't get tight or hold on too hard to our intention with the lines, especially as these arcs are becoming larger, they become more challenging to control. And just letting the breath move them around and be where they might end up. They're beginning to adapt their shape to the edges of the page, to their neighbors. Create zones of intensified medium ink or graphite, layering up in the spaces between, creating their own expression within the page. Outside of our act of creating the orbits, even perhaps outside of our intentions, I started to reach the end of my paper, in which case I don't really want to draw on my desk. I must bring my attention to that moment in the drawing up the arc to lift up, continue the action, the motion in the air, and let it just skim the edge or pick up and land again. Pick up and land again. And perhaps we can layer a bit of that technique into the drawing in other places where we might just pick up from where we begin. We jump over an area of density and land again. Pick up to meet the edge of the page and land again. Just engaging a few more of our muscles in this action. Bringing that attention to the arm as it can pull up and down. And move left and right, all at the same time. If it feels more comfortable to continue the flow, you can just draw off the page, let it go. This way. Drawing is beginning to fill this space. I think we can use the emergence of the circle and the cycle to begin again. Perhaps come back to the center and re-emphasize our dots. Maybe expand them out into the first ring. Spend a little time in each location, adding more material and just breathing into that space for a while as it fills, searching for what feels right in that breath, in that centering of each orbit. And walking through the cycle that has been established. Each tighter orbit building that intensity of the dot or the region, really changing the paper, feeling how the graphite or the ink layer up, perhaps make it wet or slippery or smooth. And as you begin to make it through the dots, working over previous rings, orbits that smooth out the wobbles, intensify the irregularities, making multiple passes, either moving between or, as I'm doing here, orbiting in, using the canvas we've set up with these concentric layered rings as another opportunity to connect further inward with the repetition of an action. A place where we can again come back to our breath and check in that we're not holding anything in the body too tightly. Maybe allow it to be a little looser, to wobble. Perhaps even close your eyes for each orbit to see where it goes. You don't have to, but if it feels okay. And with these larger cyclical orbits, It's a chance just to breathe and let it decouple from the drawing. Just be in space with attention to the in-breath and the out-breath, disconnected from where you begin and end, since the revolutions just continue on. Allowing the breath to kind of normalize to a relaxed state. Not pushing it in deep or letting it out slow, just breathing in and breathing out. Allow the mesmerizing rotations to let everything else kind of melt into the background as you just breathe in and breathe out. An opportunity to trust that the pen will go roughly where it goes without us pushing it, pulling it into that place. That our eye will engage with our hand to perform a bit of its tracking, pattern recognition, keeping the field of the drawing somewhat stable. And that if it is very wobbly, that is part of what this drawing is. Maybe we're having a wobbly day. And it's an opportunity now to get those jitters, discomforts, anxieties out through slowly conveying them into form, to shape on this page, and letting our gentle, even breath just smooth them out. Each new beginning, each new cycle in a location on the page, starting small but easy to track and control, getting larger, introducing more instability, helping us practice our acceptance of that discomfort, or perhaps our technique and our precision, or just our use of breathing, a steady mind to relax into it and experience the flow of the drawing. Find myself getting lost in these convergences between cells, often swapping orbits, blending them in the space of ambiguity. Just being free then to not craft the image of the drawing, but to experience this visual field that my actions have established. Body engaged, the motion. To perhaps feel how my pencil is dulling. Pen here is running low on its ink, becoming scratchier. Very subtle change communicating through this tactile feedback. Tool is in need of maintenance. Becoming attentive and aware to those subtle cues might happen in us as well. I need an oil change. Time to relax into this creative expression. Just let things out and to a visual space. Hope that the room is feeling relaxed and pulled in by this action we've been able to share. Fortunately, now must transition to another space of Zoom and meetings. Apparently, the fall approaches. Let's begin the cycle of planning again. Take a few more moments to complete current orbits, experience a few more revolutions, and to bring our mental attention back to the space around us. Start first by just letting my eyes travel a bit more around the drawing, visually experience what I have created here in this time. And the flexing the fingers and toes, wiggling them, actually doing that a little bit, stretching the back from side to side for me. It's kind of sideways position I'm in, especially if you're reaching out over the page to draw. You're very tight back there. Maybe looking around the room a little bit. Any other inhabitants sharing the space, perhaps a cat, dog, or a friend, child. Aware that they're also present with you. Noticing the light, noticing the air and the smell. As our noisy attention is occupied by the repetition of the drawing, we can notice these other senses. As we awaken, we're ready to use all of these tools available to us through this body to experience the day, open up that space between moments to be aware, mindful, and the richness flow through us. Thank you for joining today on this adventure in drawing and this meditation on the gravity that binds us all together. I hope you're finding a place of stability and expression through this kind of expansion and contraction of our mind in the space of repetition and in the act of drawing. As always, if you liked the video, please share with your friends, give it a like down below, leave some comments on other skills or techniques you might like to explore, other mediums that we can bring into the fold. And as always, draw well.